So I look to you, or look to the camera.
It doesn't
Okay.
really matter.
I won't.
But 안녕하세요. 영국유학닷컴 장희성입니다. 저는 올해 또 코벤트리 대학교에 왔는데 우리 바쁘신 마크 교수님을 또 괴롭히게 되었습니다. It's good to see you again.
Nice to meet you again as well.
Could you introduce yourself again to Korean students?
Okay. My name's Dr. Mark Piekash. I'm the Associate Head for Marketing Recruitment in the School of Marketing and Management. And in that school is where the sport and event courses sit. In terms of my background, I've worked as a practitioner. I've also researched and published and probably taught in the sport and event sector for about over 20 years.
Okay, today I'm not going to bother you a lot, so I prepared 4 questions. One is why, if you want to study sports management, why Coventry?
Perhaps one of the things that's always quite useful to begin with is to remind students who are interested in applying for any sport course about the variety of opportunities out in the sport industry, because very often students just associate sport with football or with sport facilities. But one of the important things about our courses is that we try and show the breadth of opportunities out there. So you might start off with thinking, for example, of managing a facility. So when I was in Seoul last time, I had a very nice swim in the old Olympic pool. That is part of management. But you've also got part of management in terms of the marketing of that facility. You've also got some interesting work in terms of the coaching elements, or even when I was there, I thought it was really interesting that there was hundreds of people there, many of them elderly, who were using the facility for their health benefits. So there was an interesting market, but also when I was in Seoul, it was also interesting that there was an awful lot of gyms, fitness centres, working for the business sector, so very much for the profit sector. But then we go into all the other areas of working as an agent, working in marketing, working in sponsorship, working in outreach work, working for what we call social entrepreneur organisations who are not for profit. And if a student was to have a look at the United Nations site and put in the word sport, they will see a wide variety of projects taking place around the world to deliver all sorts of other outcomes, from educating people about AIDS to trying to improve diplomatic relations between countries. So I just wanted to say a little bit about, it's a big industry, it's diverse. In terms of Coventry, why Coventry? Well, what we must emphasise is that it's a business management course. And what any applicants need to look at for any course, business course, is it underpinned by the 3 core disciplines of business? People, so that's your staff, that's your human resource management function. Customers, that's your marketing function. And money, that's your financial management subject area. So those are almost 3 pillars of any business course. But what we will do is that we will look at all those business disciplines applied to the sport industry. And remember, it's big, it's huge, it's global, and it has to be managed like any other business. One of the mistakes is sometimes made is that because sport is associated with having fun and enjoyment, that it's not taken always as seriously. But that is big business. And if I was to ask any potential applicant saying, right, no leisure, no holidays, no football, no watching TV, no playing games, so no going to the gym, what happens to the quality of your life? And when you put it in that context, you realise why, for so many for so many people, it's vital. So don't make the mistake, because it's associated with having fun, it's not serious. And we will take the approach that sport is serious. So that's a very important point. when you're looking for a course, perhaps one other thing to think about is, so you're looking for the business areas, but when you're getting a job, what do you need? You need to have an academic qualification, for example, a degree in sport management. You need to have work experience.
Yeah.
And one of the things I would encourage students to have a look at our web page is to have a look at all the work opportunities that are embedded and are available over your 3 years of studies, because that is absolutely vital. So when you apply for jobs, you will see that they need academic qualifications and work experience. Two other qualities that you also need to think about to help with employability is the opportunity to get additional qualifications. So that might be, for example, a certificate in risk assessment, a certificate in first aid. There are all these other opportunities to gain these certificates. And the final one, which you should get on any good degree course, is your personal skills. The ability to manage your time, the ability to work with others, your leadership skills. So those are 4 key elements which you're looking to develop in a degree course. You've got 3, potentially 4 years. One of our Korean students is on an internship in Germany for a year. So absolutely fantastic. They're building their portfolio to make themselves as employable as possible. And it's competitive out there.
So you really focus on the employability.
Yeah, when you're comparing courses, one of the things to look for is how much of the course is applied. And it can be applied in the opportunities for work experience, for volunteering. It can also be applied in the classroom. So what we'll very much try to do is have a problem-based learning approach. Because when you manage, problems rarely present themselves just as a human resource problem or finance problem or marketing problem. They are all entwined. So if your workforce isn't motivated, well, that has implications in terms of your customers. It has financial implications. So we will give students a problem and they will have to solve it. And it could be wide-ranging. It could be issues of sponsorship. So what happens when a sponsor pulls out? All of a sudden, that impacts on your marketing and your finances. What happens when, so from the other perspective, a business that sponsors an athlete does something wrong, and all of a sudden, the sponsor wants to be associated with all these lovely positive virtues, and now they're being associated with these negative things. That is a management problem which has to be dealt with. And we embed those throughout the modules and the assignments. So problem-based learning approach, that's what we mean by that. And that's how it relates to employability as well.
So in terms of employability, what kind of jobs, career path could be expected after graduation?
It could be quite wide-ranging. As I said, you've got the traditional sport facilities. I've just been in the process of writing a book on operations management, and one of the things which I was doing was exploring all the different types of jobs. So in that book I was writing about being a sport agent for all sorts of different sports. When I was looking at some of the big sports events, so in England this year we had the Cricket World Cup, we had 3 of our students worked on that. And just to give you an example of the jobs that they've gone into, one was working on security. So security not just for terrorism, but to deal with things like alcohol, safety of families, safety of young people. And it was a huge job. And their job was sort of going around all these different venues over the 6 weeks, making sure that the security and safety procedures were all in place. That is part of the sport industry. Now, their contract has ended, but they will be able to look for the forthcoming events that are taking place anywhere around the world and saying, I've got this experience. So it's a very transferable skill. Another of the students, just on the Cricket World Cup, who was working on volunteering. No mega sport event can take place without thousands of volunteers. thousands of volunteers. But someone has to design a job specification for them, because you can't just say, oh, do you want to come in now and do some help on the event? You have to be trained. We have to check that you're a safe and fit person to deal with the public or with children or with other groups. So we have to design the job, we have to advertise it, we have to bring you in, we have to interview you, we have to sort of recruit you, then we have to train you, and then we put you out there. And that process can take up to 2 years. So Japan's going to have the Olympics. I would encourage students to have a look at the volunteering opportunities there that will be coming up. But that training will have to take place, that planning has to take place 2 years in advance. So there's another job in terms of recruitment, working in communities and volunteers. And the third student who got employment on the Cricket World Cup was as an operations manager. So they were the person checking that the doors are open, the risk assessment's been done, that staff have turned up on time, that there's enough food in the catering areas, that if there's any queues, why is there a queue? What can we do? Can we put more staff on? Because ultimately it's all about giving sort of the best possible experience possible to the customer, because they need to come back. If they don't come back, you're not going to be in business very long. So there really are huge numbers of opportunities. And what I'd strongly encourage students to do is to just go online and put sort of sport management jobs, and they will be amazed at the variety of job opportunities out there. So if they have a look in global marketing, sports global marketing, they will see all the internships that come up, and that's how the Korean students saw the job advertised, internship, to work for a club in Germany.
Studying sports management is really huge in Korea.
Yeah.
And the students want to study, of course, with you, but some want to study Ruffer. So
yeah,
can you compare?
I think it's, personally, we take a bit of care about comparing, because we're always very conscious that we never want to say, oh, one place is worse or better than the others, because I think it's important that students, to make the best decision, we do appreciate it's a big investment. It's a big investment financially, it's a big investment emotionally for the applicants and their families. And it's a very brave decision, particularly if you want to study elsewhere. So what we'd always encourage the students to do is to almost do a list of pluses and minuses. And what we'd always say is that, first of all, the student has to be happy with the course, so compare the contents. I'm giving some examples of one of the areas that we feel that we're very strong on in terms of employability, the applied focus, and certainly our links with industry, which is why so many of our students can work on volunteering or getting internships. It's big business. So that's one of our strengths. So that's one of the pluses to look for, on that. Would I be happy with the course? So you put that down there. Am I interested in the content of the course? Because some courses can have different mixtures, different focuses. So I haven't begun to explain all the different areas of our courses, but we're very strong in terms of the marketing. We're very strong in terms of the governance of sport. We're very strong on the sport events side, because that really is a key strength. We've probably been offering sport, leisure, event-related courses in different forms for over 25 years. So it's a long time. It's a very long time. So that means we've got links with industries. So compare the course content very carefully. Have a look at the modules. That's what I would encourage. Look at the modules, thinking that looks exciting, that looks interesting. Other things to do is to look at the academic profiles. So if you were to have a look at the staff, you'll see staff who have published books, who have published journal articles, and Loughborough will be very strong on that as well. But it all depends. If the student is very much going down the research, sports science background, then they might consider aspects of Loughborough, because they might want a particular supervisor. So that was one of the factors of thinking, that's a subject area I want to learn more about. and potentially I might want to work on with my master's work. So that can be a deciding factor. So have a look at the profiles, have a look at what we write about, what we focus on. I would also encourage students to look at the place, or look at the university. Would I be happy with the university? Compare. Coventry is a big university. We have an awful lot of international students, not just Koreans, but international students. And I think that's a real positive, because one of the great things is that you want to open up your social networks around the world. And the friendships that you often develop on the 3 years, you will hold those. I suppose it's an example now, isn't it? We're sort of developing work colleagues, but it's also developing friendships all over the world. That is part of the social network. And that is one of the things to look at for. Look for the diversity of the course. And Coventry is incredibly strong in terms of the international side. I think we come out some of the strongest in terms of internationalisation of our curriculum and of the trips that are available. So that's one of the positives. So another thing to compare. And that's with sort of the university itself. So it's embedded in the sport management courses, it's embedded in the culture of the university. The third area which I would sort of get students to think about is that you have to be happy with the city.
I see.
And compare. Feel happy that thinking, I would like to spend time there. Loughborough has a different type of setup. Loughborough is a campus university. It has different types of sport facilities. Coventry is a campus within a city, really, and I'm sure you'll be able to sort of show students on a map or explain more about sort of the different setup. We have sort of, and the very good thing about Coventry itself as a location, it's a small compact city, it's a student city, which means it can be a bit cheaper to live, but it's also its location. So one of the things which I've constantly been emphasising is the opportunities to get out. So we're about 20 minutes from Birmingham, second biggest city. There are all sorts of opportunities there. So for example, a number of our students were working on the Cricket World Cup or Edgbaston, but we've also got 3 big football clubs in Birmingham. Villa are back in the Premiership, and I would always encourage students, and I was talking to some Korean students who are on campus, saying some of their homework, I wanted them to go see different sports that they weren't familiar with. So in Coventry itself, there's rugby, very big. It's a Premiership club, it's the Wasps, but it's interesting how they're trying to leverage their brand for other sports like netball, and potentially basketball, and other areas of rugby, women's rugby. So it's very interesting, all this area. So look at the location, look at the opportunities for seeing sports, experience sports. So this week, or the next few weeks, the sport management students will be going down in the city centre to see ice hockey, the Blades, because we've got quite a few of the ice hockey players do their postgraduate courses with us, and they're from all over the world. So they're going back into education. They're elite athletes doing a course. We work with them, and in return we often take students down there to watch an ice hockey game, and we say, watch the ice hockey game, enjoy it, but look at the sponsorship, look at the management, look at how we got people in safely, look at how we got people out safely again, look at all the equipment. Someone has to supply that. That is part of the sport industry. So we just want to sort of give them these moments of revelation, is that when you think of sport, don't just think of the people playing on the pitch or the ice rink. Look around you, and all of a sudden you see that it opens up. And Coventry is very good for sport opportunities. I think in many ways it's a small city, but it punches above its weight in terms of the events that's available, the access, the variety of sports. And we have the Rico Arena, for example. And I would encourage students as well, saying it was built as a sport arena, but over 60% of its income probably comes from non-sport related activities. Concerts. So our students, a number of our students, and they can have a look on our web pages and some of the stories, but you'll see some of the students who worked on the Spice Girl concert There were sports students doing stewarding.
I'm a huge fan of.
See, you could have volunteered. But that just shows you, we want students to think more than, if you work in sport, you often have to think beyond sport. So if you were managing this huge international arena, you have to think that how can we use it for other things? So a new state-of-the-art stadium where students are going to visit this term, first year, so it's going to be the new Tottenham Hotspurs ground, which I'm sure many Korean students will know as, I don't know, is there some Korean player?
Sonny.
Is it? Oh, I don't know. So anyway, he's that is a state-of-the-art ground, and I've encouraged students to look at that because it's very revealing in terms of it's built primarily for football. So if you have a look at it, it's a stadium where the seating is very steep, so you feel close to the action because you want that experience. And that's what a live event is all about. But the pitch can slide out and have another pitch slide in for American football. And they'll also use, which is like the AstroTurf, it's an artificial pitch, but they can also use that for music concerts. They also use it for exhibitions. So when they designed it, they could not just design it for sport. You have to be creative. You have to think, how can this be used for football, first and foremost? How can we use it for conferencing? How can we use it for people just to visit? So you can even walk across the stadium. Income. How do we have a museum? So we even get the history of sport. The heritage is another source of income where people say, I'd love to go to this ground and see all the cups that they won. That's all part of the sport business. That's the opportunities of Coventry. So those are, I just wanted to say, think about those three areas. Happy with the course, happy with the university, happy with the city. And hopefully I've given some things, some benchmarks to compare us, which we feel very proud and which we feel excel, with other universities. So I will never say we're better than others, but think very carefully about what we are.
You can say I'll edit. So my last question.
Okay.
Yeah, some days ago, the student came to me that he wants to study sports management in Germany or in the States.
Right. Okay, so the politics, the language issues, it could be all the things to think about. Obviously in the UK, I mean, sport is big. And one of the things that's also quite interesting is to also experience, and we get students to think about this, is the history of sport. Because one of the things is that a lot of the sports originate in the UK. Yeah.
Almost everything.
Yeah, and that's it's quite interesting how it's spread out and how other cultures take it on. So cricket is an interesting one. You think cricket's not very big in Korea, but if you were to go to India, it's the biggest sport.
Huge.
It is huge. It is huge. And cricket is looking to expand to other areas. So it's quite interesting that China has stated that they want to try and qualify for the next Cricket World Cup. Because it's quite interesting how they want to do these things. So it's the opportunity for the variety of sports to experience. And I know students might come, I'm really interested in football, but if they want to be the top managers learn from other sports, other areas. It was quite interesting that, and this is from a perspective, Gareth Southgate, the England manager for England had a very good run in the Football World Cup in Russia last year. But the qualities of him was very interesting. So he went to netball to learn. He went to look at American football to learn. He went to look at the NBA and basketball to learn. And there's a couple of the little games where it was very interesting. The set plays they came straight from American basketball, of how in the box, a set piece. And I use that as an example to illustrate that why you always need to look beyond sort of the scope. And the UK as a whole is very well placed just to see that diversity and see some of the Premiership is one of the richest leagues in the world. you have all sorts of opportunities. But students often want to see the Premiership, but I always tell them, say, go to a small club like Coventry. And it's something which you take for granted, but look at all the football clubs in Britain, and they are named after cities. Mm-hmm. If you have a look in America, they have a franchise operation, and their American football, the NFL, it's a franchise, it's a closed league, and they can quite happily move to another city. Yeah. And that says something about the heritage, about the importance of developing roots in the community, because that's where your fans are really developed. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting how fans are moving. Geography is no longer a boundary. It is an interesting dynamic. So explore it from that dimension. Explore it in terms of the history, the heritage, the opportunities. It's a huge industry. And the fact that we've got links with all these diverse areas because we've been going for such a long time. If the students are really interested in American football, they can come here because it's interesting that a lot of American football games are being played here. Mm-hmm. And that's part of their league. And that's, if you were to say, why are they doing that? It's because they want to grow the market. Yeah. But if they're really, 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 really interested in American football, go to America. But I said there's opportunity. We've got American football being played here. Right. We've got basketball is big. Yeah. All the sports that you can want, apart from possibly baseball. But interesting, even baseball games are being played here. So when one of the league games was played in London this year. I can't remember. I don't know if it was the Boston Red Sox who came over. It was sold out completely. Wow. So even there, it's not. So what baseball is trying to do, they're trying to grow the market beyond America into Europe. Yeah. And that's what cricket's trying to do in other countries and rugby. And
come to Korea to play cricket.
There is a market.
Oh, really?
There will be a market. So I promise you, there will be a market. We had one of the most exciting cricket World Cups ever this year. And if you just have to ask yourself, we don't play it in Korea, but why is it the biggest sport in India and Pakistan and Bangladesh? Mm-hmm. What is it that we're missing? Why are we having some of that fun? And the cricket authorities will have to say, we got the Rugby World Cup taking place in Japan.
Yeah. So you're going there?
I will be going there as part of research, but Japan is not necessarily a big rugby playing nation, but it's played it for a long time. Yeah. It goes back to the first reference, 1873. And one of the places that I'll be visiting, Kamashi, an area destroyed by the 2011 tsunami, they have tried to use the Rugby World Cup to rebuild the economy, and they've rebuilt the stadium. But it's also a town that used to be based on steel, and the steel, Nippon Steel, used to sponsor the rugby team, and that rugby team in the 70s and 80s won the league 7-8 times. And we don't tend to associate Japan as a rugby nation, but there's all these new opportunities being opened up. And from the UK, that's one of the things which you can explore, all these opportunities. We try and get students to use their imagination to see it's a big, exciting world out there.
In the conclusion of this interview,
if
you want to study sports management, the UK could be a good place for students.
Definitely.
And Covenant University could be the one.
Well, I would hope so. You know, we work very hard in terms of getting that balance of, the academic research side, the practical applied problem-solving approach, working with industries, and from Coventry itself, it acts as this wonderful platform to go out to explore all these opportunities. So even if students were to come, by the time they were during their period of study over 3 years, if it was an undergraduate program, the Commonwealth Games would be on in Birmingham. That's a huge athletic and cultural festival. They might not be interested in it, but volunteer, find out.
What could be one of the best options to progress to Covenant University?
Well, perhaps you explain more about that. Obviously, there's different options. Other people will be able to explain it sort of better than me. But obviously, on campus is one of those platforms. So, on campus, we'll offer the foundation year. The advantage of that is that it's on the site. We work on the university site.
Yeah.
Myself, in part of my role, I regularly sort of come in to talk to some of the students.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give taster activities,
Mm-hmm.
and there's also the support that we get. And there's also it can be a smoother route into the course. So the students who come for the on-campus courses, if they work hard, get their grades, that is part of that's one of the things they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's every opportunity of progressing onto sport management. And even if after their time, if they want to choose a different course, because young people can change, find out other things. There's a wide variety of other opportunities out there which they could go into. So they might come here thinking sport, but they might change their minds and go, actually, it's events. They might come in thinking sports, but they might think, you know what, I'm really interested in some of the marketing courses.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the advantage, they've got time to think about it. So it's on campus provides that sort of that smoother pathway, if you like, because we work very closely together.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I hope to see you again in Korea.
Yes, I'd love to come.
영국유학닷컴이 코벤트리 한국 대표 사무소고, 그리고 아까 우리 막 교수님이 말씀해주신 원캠퍼스 코벤트리도 저희 공식 지원처니까 코벤트리 대학에서 공부하고 싶으신 분들은 언제든 저희 영국유학닷컴으로 문의 주시기 바랍니다. Okay, it's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Done.